This man is crying because his country got separated from Malaysia. His country has no natural resources, water, and trade. The country is too small, too weak to survive independently. But he himself and the entire world is unaware that the man who is crying while addressing the press will become the biggest textbook case study for centuries to come on how to build nation for world leaders. This is the story of a man who built Singapore, Lee Kuan Yew. Ladies and gentlemen, in order to understand how incredible things this man did to his country, first we have to understand what was the situation of Singapore when it got separated. In 1965, when it separated from Malaysia, 70% of people were living in slums. It had very tiny population with rising unemployment. The hope of getting access to the bigger market of around 12 million lost due to separation. And when there is a rising unemployment with no natural resources in the country, criminal activities, violence and corruption becomes normal. And Singapore was not an exception. Apart from all this, the biggest problem was a threat from neighboring countries. Indonesia was bombing. A militant coup has happened in Indonesia. If security is not guaranteed, Singapore may lose its sovereignty. First thing was survival, not from the hunger, but Singapore as an independent sovereign country. To give you context, Singapore has no its own standing military. Until now, it was protected by British Army, but they were leaving. This looks like a absolute happy and proud moment for the country because most of the country were getting independence after a long struggle against colonization. But guess what? In case of Singapore, it wasn't. Here is why. Singapore got separated from Malaysia due to different political ideology. Malaysia was giving threat of cutting water supply, and in Indonesia, a militant coup has happened. So one thing was very clear. In the absence of standing military, something similar could happen in Singapore as well. This means none of these two neighbors can be trusted. Now, Prime Minister Lee did something that no one can think of. He requested British Army to stay in the country for the next 10 years. That is till 1975. The vision was very simple. The presence of army was must for the survival, and thousands of people would be unemployed if the British Army left the country immediately. Lee requested India and Egypt for the military training and got no response from the both countries. Finally, Israel became ready to train the people, and in 1967 Singapore introduced national service, in which every individual has to serve country for 2 years as a military once they reach the age of 18. This protected country's sovereignty. Today, Singapore Armed Forces (SAF) is one of the most technologically advanced and heavily funded militaries in the Southeast Asia, with a defense budget of 19.5 billion US dollar. To solve the problem of economy and unemployment, he established Economic Development Board (EDB). The goal of EDB was very simple: to bring foreign investment from the entire world. He sent team of EDB to the different countries to meet the official of different companies. They went with the proposals to make companies establish their factories and start their operation in Singapore, and they will give everything they required: tax incentives, reliable electricity, cheap English-speaking labors, political stability, and no corruption. To solve the problem of corruption, Lee given full authority to Corruption Practices Investigation Bureau (CPIB) to investigate ministers, top bureaucrats, police officials, and businessmen. Not only this, CPIB can search and arrest suspect without warrant. But the report of suspicious activities was directly checked by Prime Minister himself, preventing the bureau from being abused. But Lee also understood only punishment will not fix everything. So he increased the salary of civil servant. This is how much they are paid today. This on the trust of companies, and they started investing in Singapore. Texas Instruments, Hewlett Packard, Philips, Sales were first few companies who started investing in Singapore. The British Army left 4 years earlier in 1971, and none of the people working there remained unemployed. Today, Singapore is a hub of finance, logistics, semiconductors, biotechnology, and advanced manufacturing. Thousands of multinational companies have their regional headquarters because of its stable business environment and skilled workforce. Today's per capita GDP is more than the United States. But the world-class workforce cannot be developed if 70% of people are living in slums. For this, he developed House and Development Board (SDB). This is the most powerful strategy till today. The government bought land and built apartment and flats. Now the factory workers can easily shift from slums to the apartment and the flats that have all the facility. And this was not free at all, but at a subsidized rent. But what's most fascinating is the government of Singapore made people owner of apartment and flats who were living on rent and couldn't afford it in just few years. Here is how. The government made it compulsory to contribute to the Central Provident Fund (CPF). A certain portion of salary is being saved every month. Within few years, people were able to buy the same flats in which they were living as a tenants without any extra expenditure, with the money being saved in the Central Provident Fund. Today, 78% of residents live in SDB flats. Home ownership rate is 90%, which is one of the highest in the world. Lee wanted every citizen to have a stake in the country and its future, believing that home owners are more invested in national stability than renters. Having said that, everything is not great as per many people. The politics of Singapore seems like dynasty politics, not a family but a party politics. How is this even possible? The first and the current Prime Minister of the country is from the same party, People Action Party (PAP). The media is also not free as the fully democratic country. Apart from all this, Lee Kuan Yew himself constantly interfered private sector.
I am accused often of interfering in private lives of citizens.
That's all from my side. What do you think? Let me know in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next.